Now it's my pleasure to officially open the proceedings by introducing our opening keynote presenter, Air Marshal Warren McDonald, AM-CSC. Air Marshal McDonald joined the Royal Australian Air Force at the age of 15 as an apprentice motor transport fitter. In 1989, he was commissioned and underwent pilot training, flying his first operational tour on P3C's Orions at No. 11 Squadron. In 1983, he was posted to Canada to fly CP-140 Aurora at 415 Squadron. In 1996, Air Marshal McDonald returned to fly P3 Orions and accumulated over 5,000 hours on this aircraft type. He has served as Commanding Officer 92 Wing and has served 4 operational tours in the Middle East, and each one in different command positions. This culminated as the Australian Air Component Commander for Joint Task Force 633 in support of Operational Slipper. In 2012, Air Marshal McDonald was promoted to Air Commodore and appointed Director General Capability Planning, Air Force. On promotion to Air Vice Marshal in July 2015, he took on the role of Deputy Chief of Air Force. He was promoted to Air Marshal in December 2018 and is currently serving as the Chief of Joint Capabilities. So, tradesman, pilot, flight commander, commanding officer, capability development, leader of our deployed forces, leader of joint capabilities here at home. Air Marshal McDonald is uniquely placed to discuss the importance of EO to the warfighter. Please join me in welcoming Air Marshal McDonald to the stage.
Right, thanks Arthur, and welcome everybody, and particularly those who come from overseas. Welcome to the city that fun forgot. I just realised I'm being recorded as well, so I'll get a little bit to that later on. So, safe EO to the warfighter through innovative techniques and culture. About 42 years ago, I was at a conference very similar to this. There were 3 of us. It was at 378 Church Street, Hay, New South Wales. For those who haven't been to Hay, New South Wales, that's my hometown, think of a place with everything and take it away. Small country town, probably about 6.5 hours drive from here out to the west. We were in my mate's father's metal fabrication shed, and we were looking at innovation, trying to improve the explosive power of pool chlorine and brake fluid. There were, like I said, 3 of us. We had all the disciplines covered. There was the tech, there was the engineer and the chemist. So we thought we could expand its explosive power by containing it. So we cut up some 1/8-inch steel and formed a steel box. So we had all the 5 sides. The 6th side was yet to be placed in. That was all going quite well. And then we started to become a little bit safety conscious when we poured the pool chlorine in and then put the crucible of brake fluid on top. We made sure there was none that had leaked over the side, so it would go off when we put that in there. And then came the welding of the top plate. That's when safety started to come into the equation. Like I said, the culture, it was there. Can't say what type of culture. Bravado, I think, was the main part. Innovation, absolutely. I could black weld, so could my mate. So we started to take turns of black welding the steel plate together on the top. That's when safety came in, like I said. I was wearing goggles because oxyacetylene, if you look at the flame for too long, it's not so good on your eyes. And then there were occasions when I looked around and they were stepping a little further back in the shed. And even their hands came up to protect their faces at some stage, probably thinking something might go off. So we eventually managed to black weld the plate on top of this box. And then logistics suddenly struck us that we had to walk about a mile to the river. So that was a long walk, I remember. Each took turns of cradling this crucible of death. And we had a few strange looks because we were walking not like 3 young lads would at that age. Very gingerly along the side of the road and then worked our way down into the river bend. where we shook it up and threw it. It was underwhelming. I think our welding far exceeded the capacity of the explosive ordnance that sat inside. But I learned a few things from that. I learnt that safety should actually come first. I learnt that we had a pretty good security envelope, because my mother had no idea what I got up to till years later, but she don't show her this because it may concern her. She's still alive. That may cause her to pass away. But also that, like I said, safety is fairly important. And as we approach the 102nd anniversary of the world's, I think it still is, largest man-made explosion, the Halifax disaster. For those not aware of it, on the 7th of December this year, in 1917, two ships collided. And the yield that went off was about 2.9 kilotons of TNT, flattened Halifax in Nova Scotia for about a 1.6 mile radius. Killed about 2,000 people, injured 9,000, through the anchor shaft about half a tonne off one of the ships at about 3.6 miles, and also through the cannon, 90mm cannon, about the same distance. Orphaned an enormous amount of children because it occurred at about 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, where all the workers were down. Caused a tsunami that ripped through the shorefront about 18 metres and flattened virtually every building, like I said, for about a 1.6 mile radius. So when it comes down to what we do inside the Royal Australian Air Force and also, in the Australian Defence Force, we need to be very cognisant of the dangers of what we deal with. Many in the room are far more educated and will always be than I am on that point. But for the explosive ordnance enterprise in Australia, I would say to you that we in the past have sort of taken our eye off it. You look at Benalla, it's an excellent facility, but it took a lot to get it back up to where it is today. Tallis, who we work hand in hand with, have done an enormous amount of work there to improve it. But for those who haven't been there, I would encourage you to go, particularly where they show you the museum now, which only a few years earlier was used for production. I think in Australia we're well poised to get a grip around the explosive ordnance enterprise. I look at the production facilities in Benalla, the logistics enterprise through Port Wilson for distribution, and also for our explosive ordnance storage facilities that we're doing up across Australia. I also look at the requirement to focus on guided weapons, which we are, trying to understand the best way to produce those, best way to support them in a small country that is Australia. And we have to remember our geographical size and population. We are 1/16 the size of the United States of America, and that counts. That's important. It's important for us to understand what we can do and make sure we don't go too far beyond it. But with the innovation that is around now for explosive ordnance, we need to move on it and move on it quickly so we can cement our position as a nation inside the world for explosive ordnance. 3D printing, resonant acoustic mixing, all those things that brings efficiency, or that bring efficiency to manufacturing and allows us to explore different techniques and explosives. We need to work on that and move on it quickly. This is why forums such as this are vital, a collection of experts across the world to help us understand what Australia can do better, to make sure we do produce safe explosive ordnance for the warfighter that is innovative, that provides them with the best capability they need at the time, and to ensure we cement a culture that brings together those safety and innovation so that we can better place ourselves into the future for Australia. I'd ask that each and every one of you get to know yourselves, get to know what is available in Australia and how we can better do it. We're open for business, and we'd like to see whether we can lead in certain areas across the world. For our Australian industry partners, thank you for attending, and I'll look forward to working with you. And for those from overseas, thanks again for travelling such long distance to be here. Cheers.